This conference will now be recorded.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, October 26th, 2020. Public comments. Nobody from the public in the room. I don't see anybody unmuting their mic. Nope. All right, on to administrative business. We want to.
In your packets, you have the minutes of October 19th.
What do you see? Corrections?
I don't have a correction, I just want to bring it noteworthy that I like the way that they wrote the minutes under the portion of question Randy Franks regarding a perceived delay in responding. I just think that was a very appropriate way to write that, so I just comment on that. And having said that, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay. A motion by Diane.
I'll second.
Second by Dave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
I wanted to make the board aware, I had applied for the Secretary of State's office had offered funding for election that we had to apply for, and previously we had been awarded $11,800 and some odd dollars, which I had reported to you. We actually submitted additional expenses on our final report that were over and above that amount, and they actually sent us another check. So we received a check for $1,569.94, which will be helpful for the election budget. So I do have a salary change.
Okay. We got a salary change for Judy Pryor, clerk, from $22.53 a month to $22.53 a month. New office assistant. Is that 1569 requiring normal action, like the first bid?
What are you talking about?
As far as voting to approve or anything like that.
Voting
it's
to
just
approve what?
The 1,569, the additional money that you just
Oh,
mentioned.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I had moved along from
Yeah,
there. I didn't know what you were talking about.
Jump back.
No, we just received it, and I just wanted to make you aware. There's no additional action required on the board's part. Just- Sorry, it is Monday.
No, it's fine. I just, sometimes you get to skipping along through things and then you forget, but.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. We do have copy paper bids. I did not make a copy of this for everybody, but I can. And but if you can just read it out for the virtual meeting, I didn't have it for pockets, so.
So we have a bid of $33.50 a case from Hillsborough Baker Brothers, and we have a bid for $32.25 a case from Wichita, Kansas, Office Plus.
And this is for 100 cases.
Yeah, and then Emporia, Navarat didn't bid. So 100 cases, so we're looking at $100 extra to go with Baker Brothers. I'll go ahead and make a motion to go with Baker Brothers. So I get second by Ken. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, sir. I believe.
Okay. You had asked for information. You might remember that Randy Frank had asked for a payout of his vacation hours because he hasn't had time to go on vacation. And so I did check those hours, and I've got that information. It was in your packet on the administrative business sheet. He will earn 120 hours on the November pay period. His anniversary date is October 21, which is the beginning of the November pay period. He currently has 146 hours. The maximum allowed is 160. So if you take the 146 that he has and you add the 120 that he will be earning, that's 266 hours, which means that the action would need to be taken to pay out 106 hours for him to not lose any, and the $22.55 an hour. So the total would be $2,390.30.
How much would it be? I'm sorry.
$23.90.30.
Make some sort of ruling, these department heads, or the departments have to start getting their vacations in by their anniversary date.
We do try to do that, and generally what you've done is you've extended the time that they have to take time off. But there, it wouldn't be inappropriate for the board to decide to pay it if that's your wish, but, and it could potentially qualify for reimbursement if there's ARC funds left over, so.
With not knowing how things are gonna shake out, I don't know that extending it is going to give him the opportunity to take it either, so.
No, the only reason he hasn't taken is because of all the extra burden of the COVID, so I don't know how you could possibly deny it.
There's ways. I'm just thought that we discussed this because we're having so much of this people coming in, and I thought we made a ruling.
I did not research that, I don't remember for sure.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you'd like me to, I
Well,
can
no,
check back to see if there was any previous official action on that.
Even if there was a ruling, we could certainly overrule it.
Yeah,
And
we
like I
want to,
say,
that's
yeah.
the next question.
I mean, I just think if you're considering doing something like that with the COVID, it's pretty bad, because we've had other people who work extensive hours, who had exceptions made to different things or different times under the hours. I mean, this was just not, if it was something he just carelessly did on a regular year, I could understand. But COVID, he worked a heck of a lot of hours to do the job. So I think instead of trying to cheat him out of his vacation, we should be thanking him for stepping up and doing as good a job as he did. I knew that, I disagree with that.
Okay.
But we did the Deidre and other people who worked
Right.
hard, we comment,
But,
we sure did.
Randy's still standing on the principle, he wasn't in favor of that either, so he's not.
And that's fine.
But the COVID didn't start till March. Do we have any vacation time before that?
I didn't research that.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we approve to pay him out his $2,390.30 for back vacation that he was unable to take due to the requirements of the job for the COVID.
I'll second that.
Motion by Diane, second by Dave. Any other comments?
It's 106 hours to take care of that.
Is the caveat included that if we can get reimbursements from the Sparks, that we would go in that direction?
I didn't include that in my motion, but I would assume that that's what would happen. I mean, we always try to get everything we can. I mean, I'm not gonna restrict him from getting paid for his vacation if Sparks isn't gonna pay that.
Yeah, I just thought if it's available, we should use it.
think if it's available, we should encourage you to do that, but that's not the writing of the motion.
We'll submit it. I mean, we'll automatically submit it.
And it comes up that come up for an approval.
Yeah.
So. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Okay. We do have a new, it's a business that had applied for the CDPG, and they now have their paperwork in. And so that's for the Kronberg in Peabody. And we're still waiting for verification on whether they would be eligible for 5,000 or 10,000. It'd be based on their full-time employee equivalency. But it would be, excuse me. It would be based on whatever SCED says is the appropriate amount. So if the commission would approve them for a grant of up to 10,000, then we would just award whichever amount they're eligible for.
So we'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
I have some discussion here.
Oh, okay.
This is a food place. And alcohol place. Tavern. Have we held the rest of some of the other food places to 5,000?
Maybe, but
It's
based on-
but that's based on employees.
Employee.
It's based on employees, but I think, I don't know what Pops down there, I'm trying to just compare what I know about restaurants. I don't know what, I'll ask her.
Sorry, I missed it.
Did Pops apply for this?
No.
Okay. They didn't, I took them the application, they didn't turn it back in.
We have not received it.
Okay. Yeah, have we held restaurants to $5,000?
It's, the way you set that up, it was based on their number of employees.
Okay.
It didn't matter what kind of business.
Okay.
Five employees or less
Was
5,000.
5,000. And if they have
6 to 50 or something.
Yeah.
It was 10,000.
Okay.
And they actually have 7, but I don't know, I think it's based on full-time equivalency, so we're still waiting to figure which category they fall into,
So if they have,
because they're not all full-time.
if they have 5 full-time and 2 part-time, the 2 part-time will equal 1 full-time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you can't count your part-time then?
Well, it's
Yeah,
everything
they
comes down to
combine
hours.
them. They combine the part-time to figure out how many that is. So.
Okay. As long as it meets the qualifications then.
I would go ahead and make the motion to approve Kronberg at a minimum of 5, but not to exceed 10, based on the limitation, or the review of employees and what category they fit in.
Second.
Second by Randy. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Okay, so, we have several of the businesses that were previously approved and funded that are now returning their agreements regarding duplication of benefits. And these are just, they require the chairman's signature. So, there's no new approval here, it's just verifying that we received that. And this first one is for the Kronberg, and the rest of them are previously approved.
They're all pretty well blanket statements.
Yes.
Everybody want to see this? They're all the same, they just have different business names.
He signed a couple of them last meeting too, they're all the same. They all have my name spelled wrong on them too.
They're consistent, huh?
Yeah.
How many you got there?
4.
4, I got 5, so.
And it doesn't require any kind of a motion, you just need
Okay.
to sign them and verify they're received.
Without any further, I'll just go ahead and sign all 5 of them
Yeah.
on agreement regarding duplication of benefits.
Tina, how is the funds being sent to these businesses after they're approved and stuff like that?
They have to turn in their receipts,
Okay.
and then once they send those to SCED, SCED
SCED
does a
does.
payment request to the state. The state sends the county the money, and then we pay out to
Okay.
the businesses.
It's quite a process up here, so that's why I
Yes, it
asked.
is.
Takes
It is quite a
another
process.
Yeah.
30 days.
Yeah.
Is the Sparks funding pretty much the same as far as getting the payouts, or is that a little different? We already have the.
We have those funds. And then all the entities and agencies that have applied for those funds, they have to provide their documentation and a spreadsheet showing their expenses plus the documentation that goes with it. That goes to the accounting firm that was hired. And then once they've reviewed it, and if they disqualified something, that goes out, and if it's approved, then it comes, that's that report that you guys
Right.
sign off on.
Okay.
And once we get that, then we reimburse based on those, so.
Well, I've been asked how that process happened, and I've just heard parts, now I've heard it all. So.
Yep.
So I will also tell the commission, I was at my juvenile detention meeting this past Wednesday, and the juvenile detention has never applied for any of the Spark monies, although they incurred a lot of expenses with extra employees and
Like their advertising.
equipment and so on and so forth. So I did talk to Scott, the other day about how we go about getting them some money, because it was brought up at our last meeting that each county should pay a portion because of the grand due. But, so anyway, at first he said that we need to go through the 8th judicial and see, because they may have blanketed got enough money to where the money should come from them. So I will be contacting them to see what they have and if they can, and if not, then it's something that we probably need to consider as each county within the juvenile detention will.
I would think that they would be directly in the second round with the direct funding, but being an entity like that.
And I don't know why they didn't apply at first, they just didn't.
Just about all of these boards that were on, the SCED, mid-cap, and things, I just wonder, they've all had things, curves.
SCED's got a
SCED does
number
it.
of grants, and in fact, that's how they're expanding their staff.
Yeah, okay, well,
And
I think that's what,
on the boards. Well, go ahead.
I think I need to get down there and talk to my leader down there in Augusta and see, but I think that's exactly what's happening too. They've got some money. I didn't, when I got the meeting there last week, I didn't get a chance to talk to her.
Solid waste, we had a meeting, but it was phone in, but it wasn't enough for a quorum, so. So, it's re-planned for January.
Okay, then the other thing that I have was and I did go ahead, even though you all had said before that you didn't really need to see all the roofing bid information, and I went ahead and put that in the packet, so that in case you wanted to review it. We did hear back from insurance, it looks like they will pay us about $42,000, and that would be for the building on Coble Street. And their replacement cost, they said, was $62,655.98, and then with this depreciation. And so they've already paid us some funds for some of the roofs that were on the previous, that Isaac bid out separately. So it looks like we would get, let's see, 41.
7731.
Yep. 41,077.31 would be the amount we could submit to insurance. So with that being said, we did do a very brief summary of all of the bids that you received. And some of these do include a discount for the entire package.
Oh, okay. That's noticed.
And that's why you can see the individual amounts, and then the total bid on the right, it tells you if it includes a discount or if it includes Kettering, those kind of things. It looks like that Yahtzee or ETC is the only one that included a discount, according to this information, so.
Recommendation, doing
I know
working
that,
with somebody. That's,
Oh, yeah,
I know.
I don't
They
have a,
do a lot of work around this.
yeah, they do. I don't have a recommendation, but I do know that.
She does better.
Dance party.
At least it's not Baby Shark.
Huh?
At least it's not Baby Shark.
No.
Okay, I do know that the insurance company has been dealing a lot with this, with Stanfield, and they've been out several times and met with the insurance company. But that's all I know. I don't know, I think of these companies, the only one that we have used in the past has been Ray, so.
Are we doing all the projects?
Depends if you want the discount from, Yahtzee. I mean, are you meaning as far as breaking them up between?
No, we're gonna, repair and replace everything.
Well, I think based on the, in my opinion,
Nobody needs it.
on the insurance with Coble, it probably wouldn't be inappropriate to separate that one out to a certain.
There is a comment on the chat from Bryce, and it says Stansfield has worked with Marion School District quite a bit.
Okay.
And so if I'm seeing these numbers from here, which I can't really, it looks to me like Ray Roofing is, if you're looking at the total amount, the last number all the way over, it looks to me like they're the highest bidder.
They are, and I was just gonna mention that they, the reason for that is if you look at the location 3, which is the Remington, the Pilsen shop, they would replace the current roof with a metal roof, and that's what, the shop and office with a metal roof, and that's, you see how that's higher than any of the other companies, so that's a little bit different scope of work that they bid there, so.
But even as I'm just scanning from each column, they're a
Yeah.
little higher than anybody in each column, so not just that particular one. So even if they give us a discount to get it down to a more substantial, I don't know if their discount that they're gonna give us is gonna even bring us down to the, what is that one? Trust, okay.
It's
I'm not even
147.
sure, I mean, that would have to be a $60,000 discount just to get it down. I mean, that's a lot of extra money. So I don't know that I would be in favor of that particular roofing company for that large amount of difference.
Would anybody be in favor of breaking them up? I mean, so if you look at.
We can save a little money.
Yeah, so if you look at Yahtzee on location 1, appears to be a apparent low bidder. Stanfield on location 2 appears to be the apparent low bidder. Stanfield on location 3.
Well, I think that's a fine thing to break them up like that. That's gonna save us quite a bit.
Looks like Yahtzee on location 4
We'd have to,
or Trust. Actually.
when you're splitting them like that, I'd have to double check on how she made the notes on the guttering, because
Right, you gotta add
you
in.
see, you'd have to add for guttering.
Right,
So those aren't totals there.
yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah, I do, but it looks like that they have $0 on the shop at location 4 for Trust. That's.
So how would you fix that particular one then? Would you still take that one?
I don't know, what, does $0 mean a no bid, or does $0
Well, they just
mean they
put,
just put it all
they
together?
just did for guttering, I think. They just, I'm not sure on that one. It's in the documentation, but.
Isn't the one that's the
Alright.
most mission critical, the shop? road and bridge shop, it's leaking, isn't it?
Yeah, it is,
And being we're in the winter,
yeah,
how much we're gonna get done.
right. And then all these companies are, capable of producing a payment performance bond.
I don't know that.
We should be, make that be a requirement.
Yeah, it needs to be.
Okay, so if we don't go with that
Also,
trust.
progress schedule, what I would like to see in addition to.
Here's the details for the, for trust on the park. It's here and then on to the next page.
We opened a greenhouse on the county shop building.
Yeah, there's a lot of building growth up there on top. Yeah.
No, because it checks the roof, it's too big.
It just looks like they didn't bid anything on the shop west of the dam, it just said remove and replace gutter.
Wow. See, I don't know Trust, I don't know who they are, I don't have a clue. And I don't know Yahtzee, and I don't know any of the other three either. But I do know that if you want some follow-up, Ray will follow up on, Ray Roofing will follow up on a job. I don't know that any of these others will. Will they be gone next year, next month, next spring?
Yeah, Ray Riffin's in town every week.
I mean, they're around.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if you got a problem, you can take the low bidder, and if you get a problem and they don't come back and help you, you've lost your money.
Well, yeah, but look at the difference here. I mean, you're looking at 60 grand.
I'm
I
sorry.
mean, that's not even anything, as far as I'm concerned, that's negotiable.
Okay.
So,
But
and all these
he's
others,
replacing a roof instead of fixing one.
That's the reason why we need the payment performance bond in place. If we have to call on the bond, we can get another contractor with a full contract amount to come fix it. I mean, just going through this enough anymore, I'm tired of being burned.
There's
So,
30,000 difference to replace the roof.
and if we ask for a payment performance bond,
You about have to in the roofing industry.
that may
Because there's
increase,
a lot of companies that come.
that may increase all these numbers a hair, because that's a percentage of the overall job.
so why are they not equal? Why is Ray bidding on a replacement when the other ones are not? Why are the bids not?
When, you might
Consistent.
remember when we did the RFP that it was in there that they could recommend whether it needed repaired or replaced. They could bid one, the other, or both. And so that was the option given at the time of the.
So do we know that needs to be replaced? I mean, true, they said it does, but how do we know?
Well, that's their recommendation,
Yeah,
so.
My guess is on them, in order for them to warranty their work, they're requiring it to be replaced, or they'd rather not do it.
And I think that company deals with metal roofs and not so much on the other. So,
Which company?
Ray.
Right.
I think they do a lot of metal.
Do a lot of tar.
They do tar, they do everything.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm only familiar with Ray, and I see that they're the highest bidder, so I mean, I'm not.
Just so that we can get some guarantee of some type, I don't really have no problem with any of the others, but the old standard thing is here today, gone tomorrow. And what do when they see a hailstorm? They flock in here, I mean, anywhere in our state.
I guess I would be in favor of reapproaching all of them on what their payment performance bond percentage is, because one could be 3%, one could be 1%.
Yeah.
And Ray could come in at 1%, and then it makes their numbers more comparative. But I wouldn't suggest changing up any of these numbers. We just need to know what their payment performance bond percentage is, because that would be an additional something we'd have to pay for. But it's an insurance for ourselves in case things don't get performed correctly, it gives you something to go back on. No different than a letter of surety or credit.
I'd be in agreement, we need to do that. Especially when we don't know what the rest of the winter's gonna look like, whether they can work on any there or not.
And then on top of that, I would want to see a rough draft schedule of completion.
Be nice to have an end
I-
date somewhere.
Well, I think that when we did the RFP, we had a work that needed to be performed within a certain amount of time
Okay.
after award. Of course, now, a lot of time has gone by
Yeah.
since we did that RFP.
I would, and just on a top personal note, I wouldn't mind if the representative from all four of the companies was in the room. Before we make this decision. That way.
See, you know, we used to do that when we had bids, but the problem that I'm having now is the fact that, because this is substantial money, and I'm just thinking our bid process, and I remember what she's talking about, but I think our bid process has kind of gone south here, because this isn't fair to them, and it's not fair to us, because you have a building there that we don't know if it needs it, does it need it, we don't know, that's one person's opinion. So somehow, I think we need to do bids like we used to do, and have somebody determine what we need, and then have bids put out where everything is equal.
You're talking about a
I mean-
spec.
I'm sorry?
A spec. You're
Yeah.
talking about a spec. so
Yeah,
it's
because
equal.
this is, you know, kind of difficult to really do the right thing here.
We're gonna spend a fair chunk of money hiring an engineer to do that, but.
Yeah, we
I'd
talked
spend
about,
it
we
aside.
did talk about that before we sent this out. We talked about that because, I mean, there's no, I mentioned to you, I don't have the ability to spec a roof.
Right.
And this is the way you all decided to do it, so,
And I'm not disputing you, Tina.
yeah,
I'm just
so, and
saying-
I'm not trying to argue, I'm just saying,
What I'm saying now, seeing what we decided to do, to me, is not fair to the taxpayers.
Well,
Did the claim adjuster have any recommendations on the roof for this?
it sounds like we just had area one, right? The claim adjuster had only,
no, he looked at everything.
oh, okay.
He looked at all of them. He met with, the roofer that he met with was Stanfield. But he did not, he didn't meet with all of them. He did receive all the bids. He didn't give us a recommendation of a contractor.
Well, just looking at the top three, take Ray out of it, they all look like they're looking at the same thing. They're all,
They've all done the same, yep.
Yep, that's correct.
I think I'd be comfortable as long as we can get a performance bond.
yeah. That's, we would need to know that percentage, because that's going to change some of these numbers.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah, but would it be a performance bond on the full package, or are you talking about them getting,
Performance bond, I think typically from what I have, it'll be a percentage. So every company, their insurance company gives them a different percentage, and then you just take that percentage times whatever category you break them out to.
And then you're still suggesting that we keep and divide up with the lowest bid on each building, am I right? Or just total?
That's up to the commission. I mean, when we get those numbers, when we get that performance percentage,
Then we sort that out.
then we can figure that out.
Okay.
Be better off doing this a group, that way we know who to call. Because if you have a problem on a roof, we don't know. We call company A or company B.
Right, yeah.
It gets confusing
I get that too.
5 years down the road.
But I also get sometimes that if you load up one contractor too much, they don't seem to get it all. Get more accomplished quickly.
What's the warranty on any of these jobs?
I guess it'd probably be a year or, and no force majeure.
Yeah.
So I would make a motion that we go and get payment performance bonds, percentage from each one of these companies with a, after bid award, rough draft, time after bid award to completion.
Second.
Second by Sean. discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Hopefully we can do that. Get it next week sometime, end of the month. I mean, it usually doesn't take that long for them to contact.
So do you want that added to the agenda on the 30th? Because I don't believe we'll be meeting on the 2nd, or, the day before the election.
Yeah.
You're not gonna allow us in here, huh?
Well, sometimes a payment performance bond from an insurance agent will take 2 weeks, so that's.
But they're not gonna go out and get it
No,
unless
they
they're
won't get
awarded.
it. They'll just get what their insurance company tells them their percentages. And that's based on past work, that's based on,
Right, so I'm asking you, do you want that scheduled on the 30th or on the?
I don't think they can get it on the 30th, so we'll have to go to the
Next
following.
regular meeting.
We could shoot for the 30th, and if we don't get it, then take it to the next one.
So it would be on the 9th.
Yeah.
I think it needs to go to the 9th, honestly, but.
It says in our proposal
I
they'll
want to give them all
finish within 90
equal
days.
opportunity to get that done.
Work to complete within 90 days on that form.
And I would imagine that in their bids, they probably already also put
Yeah.
the warranty information, so.
I'm sure it's in there.
I will tell you, the ones that have followed up with me have been Ray and Stanfield, and no one else
Okay.
through the process, so. Okay, I'll put it on the 9th. That's all I have.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't trying to overcomplicate it, I just tired of
It's kind of complicated.
I'm tired of getting burned.
You don't want to get burned.
You deal with roofs, and it's tough.
Well, it'd be also nice to get it done before the end of the year, so we can pay it out of the appropriate budget too, and not have to encumber.
We won't have Indian summer yet. Or not.
Or not.
It's happened
So-
before.
Done with administrative, don't know, MCC Meeting come on.
See, she is on.
Okay. Would you like to give us a COVID update?
Sure. As of 7:30 this morning, we're at 112 positive confirmed cases, which is up 8 cases from last Monday's report. 51 probable cases, up 4 cases from last Monday's report. 16 active, and currently 3 hospitalizations. The dashboard will be updated and released around 4 p.m. The health department continues to turn over all non-household contacts to KDHE for contact outreach and monitoring. As more and more cases occur, more businesses or facilities will stand within their facility.
Cutting out a little bit, Deidre.
Okay, let me see if I can move my, does this help?
Yeah, it usually helps the further you lean into the mic.
Okay, well, if I guess my mic was too far under my computer. So, as more and more cases occur, more businesses, facilities will see it within their facility. The facilities that I work with weekly, I've encouraged them to designate a PIO to work with the media. And as you remember, I let you know that KDHE is listing and identifying clusters on their website. But keep in mind that if it's a community event or high trafficked public facility or area, I will make the public aware. I will identify clusters when they would potentially affect the public's health and safety. The health department will continue to work with the facilities involved to provide information and guidance. Any questions so far? Okay, the health department is receiving numerous calls of individuals believing they are a contact of a positive. If anyone believes they are possibly a contact, they should quarantine and contact their healthcare provider. The especially if they have symptoms. Also keep in mind that if you get tested right when someone is identified as a positive and you come up with a negative test, you need to consider that that negative test isn't always reliable, because you might not have the viral load at that point. So if you develop symptoms, please contact your healthcare provider and consider. They will determine if you need testing. KDHE is considering revising their contact determination guideline following CDC's 15 minutes and consecutive. Right now, we are following KDHE guidance, which is currently 10 continuous minutes within 6 feet. As we are entering the flu season, please make sure you get your flu shot and stay home when you're ill. I can't stress enough how important that it is for employees, individuals, students to stay home if you are ill. Even stay home. I know some schools are having students, if they have any of the symptoms, stay home for 72 hours or requiring tests. We have seen instances where masks have reduced the spread, so that is important to wear masks when you're in public spaces. But please don't wear an N95 mask unless you've been fit tested for them. These masks are in limited supply and need to be utilized by healthcare workers and professionals. Again, please stay home when you're sick, practice social distancing, practice thorough hand washing with soap and water, and wear a mask in public. I will inform you that we are planning to have the health fair November 7th. However, due to the rise in cases, only lab will be offered. Both hospitals will be there to draw lab, and individuals must wear a mask, and we will limit the number of people admitted at a time. Any questions or comments?
Deidre, I had a off-the-wall question. This could come straight out of left field. But have you thought about reporting 3 or more cases per zip code? This is what they're going to start doing back east. They're going to do neighborhoods where they have a breakout, just so the public could avoid that area.
We can look into that and see if we can. Right now, what we do is we do give the identified cases. That's going to take a little bit to work that out.
I mean, these 51 cases that you got positive now, I mean, are they spread all over, or is there 3 or 4 in a group?
They are pretty much right now. The active cases are, I believe, they're kind of spread out.
The public just wants more information so they can protect themselves. I mean, you hate to, like a fire,
Yeah,
you're not going to walk into a burning building because you can see it. But this we can't see.
And that's why I indicated that when we have 5 or more in a public place, we will identify that. If it's a place where we feel that the public is high trafficking that place, we will definitely identify that. And most of the facilities, which we haven't had a whole lot of, they say it would happen in a business. If they get it in there, usually their employees are notified, and that is the word gets out through that way. So if it's a public high traffic business, even with numerous, if we see an outbreak is considered 2, but we don't want to single out, you know, we're going to see it. We're going to see it in businesses and facilities. So we do want to protect the privacy. And most of the time, those businesses or facilities are the ones, when we've had a couple, have got it out in the open. Much like way back in the beginning, how Tabor, when they had several, they just went ahead and told the public. So yes, we will, if it's, say, a gas station, or much like what Topeka did on the Turnpike, there was several cases at one of the stops there on the Turnpike. So they got a news release out. In the very beginning, there was I can't remember if it was in Morris County, where there was a restaurant, and they sent out a press release. So we copied that and sent it out. So we will also, we're monitoring if it's places in county, like surrounding counties that have a common identifying a public area, we will get that out also.
Okay.
That's all I had.
I'm just thinking if, you know, if a business was to be hit and negatively impacted, we would keep that in mind as far as any extra funding or spark funding, to try to, a lot of our businesses can't afford to get a hit like that.
They're gonna be closed for
Right. So
at least 2 weeks.
we'll keep them in mind for any additional funding that may come down the pipe to help them on lost revenue.
Yep.
Well,
It's
and
gonna
that's
go on
where
30
I would
days.
suggest if it's a business that you have, like a handful of employees, that you wear masks if you are not staying within your office, you wear a mask, or if you share an office with someone, then you wear a mask. Because we have seen where that seems to limit the spread.
And a business would be allowed to quarantine together, right, if they weren't interacting with the public, say, so accounting office or something like that, they would be allowed to all show back up to work together, right?
We kind of, it's case by case situation. Like, that would be very similar to like a school, like a classroom, you know, in an elementary or the lower grades, where a class has, they are allowed to go to and from school. They have to go not at the same time that everybody else goes. They can't take the public transportation. So yes, we have worked with kind of a modified quarantine. Each individual situation is a little bit different. So I guess, Jonah, I can't say for sure we'll allow it, but I know that there have been some offices where people go in at night when no one's there. They do their work, or the evening after it's closed, but we just don't want people sharing the same phones, the same keyboards, you know.
Right. I'm just saying, if you noticed a cluster was in one business, as long as they weren't letting anybody in, they could still.
Right.
They could still, that cluster could work together. They're all.
Yeah, the only thing with that is if someone else develops the symptoms and gets positive, say you have a positive person on Monday, so everybody's quarantine starts on that Monday, because I'm assuming that positive is no longer there. Then if you have someone turn up positive on Thursday, then that extends it 14 more days.
So DJ, I have one question for you. Has there been any update or any progress or any ideas and solutions as to what we're going to do with the situation with our nursing homes? Has there been any movement on that? Anything at all?
Well, CMS is, they have required the nursing homes to allow visitors, but they have to, they're required certain precautions that they have to take. I do know that if they have different guidelines too, if they have more than 2 cases, or if they have, that increases the testing. So yeah, things have changed a little bit. But not all nursing homes have opened, because you have to prepare for that visitation, and oftentimes, like, you have to develop policies. It's not like, okay, they said we could open up, we're going to open up tomorrow, so it's a process in progress.
Okay, and I understand that nobody's saying that we're opening up tomorrow, but you said there's restrictions. What kind of restrictions? Because right now the restrictions is what's preventing people from being able to go in and visit their
well, if you provide visitors, you have to have them in a safe place. Like, a lot of them are putting up plexiglass. They're having intercom system. They are not allowing touching, restrictions like that. Because they want the visits to be as safe as possible. And keep in mind that even though we're opening up, that nursing homes are opening up, when they have cases, that's not necessarily because they're allowing visitors in. And that's what if we get cases in our nursing facilities, I want to kind of keep track. Are they because it was visitors, or because, it might have been a staff person. So I don't want the reopening to get a bad rap.
Right. Anybody else got anything else? All right, thank you, Deidre.
Thank you.
All right, Sharon.
Morning.
You said good morning?
Good morning.
That's what I thought.
You broke out the coveralls yet?
Oh, yeah, yep.
Very good. If it's okay, I'm gonna take this off.
Hard time finding my winter coat.
Um,
I'm ready to go.
Yeah. I keep saying how it's funny how psychology works, because when it's 30 degrees outside and people say, it's cold outside. But then half of those people will not say it's cold outside when there's snow on the ground, because it's psychologically acceptable for it to be cold.
It should be cold then, right? I don't know, it drops below 73 and I'm cold, so. Okay, just a couple of items this morning to report to the commission. We had a second application for C&D reduction plan applied for and approved, and this was for some materials at 105 East Chicago in West Springs. So if you'd like to see that packet, this was an application filed by Pike Enterprises. So some of the types of material, it was all relatively new construction material that was left in a building. That building was purchased by the Hikes, and they intend to use it for commercial purposes. So that application was approved. There wasn't very much tonnage. The county forgave $115.25 of their transfer station fees. If you'd like to look at the application, we can pass this around.
I don't,
No, okay. An update on Expedition Wind. I received a letter from Expedition last week saying that they are actively doing survey and geotechnical work throughout the project area currently. They gave me an updated proposed schedule. They're looking at submitting the remainder of their applications from December through February, looking at construction mobilization starting in March or spring of 2021. Substantial completion around August of 2021, and then energizing August through October, and then reclamation starting October to November of 2021.
so they're looking to be
So-
done in 2021.
Yes. They're expecting to be online, tied in by fall of 2021.
So Sharon, can I ask you a question? And this was, I had a phone call last week about this. And down in that area, there are some, and that old Highway 50 is kind of a problem child. And I wanted to talk to Brad. I don't know if he's going to come in today or not, but I wanted to talk to Brad on that because I've seen emails and different things like that to where there are no road right-of-ways down there. And so there was a situation, I can't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday, whatever it is, it's a family, it's a son with his grandson living there and his elderly mother. And of course the son was working, he works nights or evenings and stuff, and Expedition Wind came knocking on the door trying to get him to sign a contract to let them go onto their property even though there's no road right-of-way there. And of course the elderly woman, she didn't know what they were talking about, said you have to wait till my son gets back from work or leave it here, whatever. The man wouldn't allow it. And I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was probably Mark Russell who was there, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure about that 100%, but I think so. Well, anyway, there was a little bit of a back and forth, and in the meantime, the son, the grandson, texted his dad while he was at work and said, hey, this man is here, he's been wanting grandma to sign this, said he ain't gonna leave till she signs it, blah, blah, blah. And I just think that type of stuff should stop. I mean, that elderly woman was very intimidated, and I mean, if she says the son isn't there or the person that needs to sign, they should leave, or leave the documents or something. So I'm asking you to, whatever you can do for them to, you know, be a little bit more respectful and appreciative of the people.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem mentioning that. We don't have any control over what they do or don't do as far as getting documents signed. That's more of a civil issue that the county isn't involved in. But I can mention that they, you know, be respectful of
Yeah,
people's
and
time.
I do know what happened was they called some neighbor, and the neighbor came to the house, and when the neighbor pulled in the driveway, then the truck from Expedition just took off. You know, so I mean, it was a very uncomfortable situation and not very professional. And I sure hope that's not the way they're gonna start doing, because they do have a lot of homework in that area down there to do. I just hope they do it properly. Okay.
All right, thanks for bringing that.
And the
to our
neighbor that
attention.
pulled in was Amy Stutzman, so that's probably the reason why they left.
Probably so.
It won't get shot.
Yeah, I mean, we bring guns.
Okay, so you're not, you know, that's not a very appropriate comment to say about guns, bringing guns. I just think that's outrageous. I think the law of the land is you're innocent until proven guilty, so I'd be very careful. But, yeah, that is correct. That's what I was talking to. I was trying not to mention any names, and it was, you know, the young man, this son was scared.
Get out of there fast.
And so it's a legitimate concern.
Yeah, the son called me, talked to me, and I know the whole story.
Mhm.
And passed his phone number to Mark Russell. And so, yeah, I know the whole story there. So.
Okay.
It's a deal, anytime you approach an elderly person, and I'm the elderly person now, I guess, but you know, and say you gotta do something now or something like that, it's not right. And I'm not gonna say that, if that happened, it was not right.
Mhm.
But anyway, I think that they needed to talk to, let them look at the paperwork and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all I was asking, because like I said,
Yes.
I got the
So
information.
you have it under control?
I don't know that it's under control, because I know for a fact that that son is not happy with the amount of money that, compared to what people got paid up north.
Oh,
No, when I don't know anything
Yeah.
about that, I'm just simply talking about the situation.
I can't help that.
And the way they approach our tax-paying people, you know, so that's why I brought that up. So I'm glad you knew about it,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Okay. The next item I have is just to inform the commission, and you may already be aware that Stonebridge Investments has filed an appeal against the BZA's decision to deny their, well, to affirm my decision in denying their application. There we go. So there's a lot of groundwork being done. We have filed with our insurance company. The insurance company appointed Andrew Holder to work that case for us. Right now, Andrew's working on a response to their appeal, and so there's groundwork being done there. If you have any questions or concerns, or if Public or Stonebridge or any of their agents are reaching out to you, I just encourage you to take those questions and comments to Andrew Holder. If you need me to get his contact information to you, I can. It's imperative that the commission doesn't speak directly with Stonebridge's agents right now. I think we should let our attorney take care of that.
Sure.
So, if you have any general questions, feel free to ask me, or if you need that information, let me know.
That's something that I don't know any of, on this particular person here, Stonebridge is,
Mhm.
I don't know any of the particular people that's involved in that, because apparently Rex Savage is out of that.
I'm sorry, please remember to speak into your microphone.
I don't know that, like Rex, I think he's sold his part, the way I understand, I don't know.
From what I understand, yes.
I don't believe he's involved in that.
Well, and I will tell you, what you're saying is true, but I think what Stonebridge is doing, especially this Roger Mueller, goes back years
Yeah, and-
of when he had involvement, so even though Rex sold his interest
Yeah.
recently,
But I don't know this person, this.
well, I don't know
Roger
either, I
Buller
just know.
was part of that investment
Mhm.
Yeah,
team,
I don't know
and
that.
they're now known as Stonebridge Investments
Okay.
LLC.
Okay. Basically, no comment. Pending.
Yeah.
Right, and same with any other appeal, it may be a while before you hear anything. Those things take time, and court dates seem to take forever, and
Judges take their time.
sure, I mean, there are just all kinds of different things that affect that, but the next thing I have, and last thing, some text amendments were approved for Article 19. I have a new copy for you to replace in your zoning regulation binders. This is Article 19, and there's also a copy for out here in the courthouse. Article 27, there were some text amendments that the planning commission worked on, and they're ready to move those forward to you. I'm just working on a clean copy of their suggestions, and then once that clean copy is available, then we'll get that to you as well for your final determination on the amendments. And that, I believe that's all I have for the commission today. Do you have any questions for me or comments?
Sure.
Okay.
Got to sit in on that, a little bit of it
Yes.
the other night, so there was a lot of good points brought up by that planning and zoning. They're really being very thorough and thinking things through.
missed
sure.
And I believe it was recorded, so there should be a link available on the YouTube.
Oh, will it be on the MTV 13? Did you take down the Gene?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
I can get to it that way
So
then.
You
Yeah.
should be able to review that. We have minutes of the meeting. We'll also have the audio recording of that, I believe.
Okay, but if it's on if it's with Gene on MTV, anybody can watch it, then that'd be good.
Yes, and then I'm not sure if it's uploaded yet. We just took that down to him Friday, so.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't know you did that, but that's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Josh?
Morning.
Morning.
Just to inform you, we did get inspected by the KDHE. We did have 2 low violations. One, it needed a gate instead of using equipment to block doors. They want us to have a gate. I did get that fixed last week. I do have gates up. And then the sign, we had it leaning against the building. It needed to be out by the road, so I did get that moved out and put up on by the road. I just wanted to inform everybody what it was.
I'm assuming the sign got fixed while they were on site.
Sign.
The sign, you said sign was leaning up against the building, had to be put out by the road?
Yeah.
It probably got fixed while they were on site, all right.
Yeah.
You don't sound too enthusiastic with that answer.
Well, I just,
We'll stay and wait while you do it.
yeah. So,
If they're requiring that, then every day, evening, I believe we need to shut the garage doors in the whole.
yeah,
There were 3 weekends in a row they've been open.
yeah. I noticed that this morning. I talked to them. We do have one garage door the Georgia company's supposed to come look at because it's not working.
Okay.
So they're supposed to be Friday, but I don't think they made it. I'm gonna make a call and talk to them and see what's going on. So
Hey, that's the reason why it's not shut then.
if it's the north door, yeah.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about.
So
Good reason.
Sounds like you got a cleanup plan, cleaning everything up once a week. And
yep.
sounds like you're starting to make the place look presentable, so.
Yeah, I go down there and I'm helping them, showing them that, I'm not just on barking orders. I'm there to help out and show them that I can, and if I need them to do something, maybe that'll say,
I drove by early this morning and all I could find was one box on the south side of the street.
Yeah.
It looked good.
Very good.
thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks.
Hey, Josh, I had one question. Could we get that spare truck back up in shape, with all the tires up, and maybe cut off that piece of fiberglass that's flopping in the wind on the,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just make it look better sitting there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, it's just for public, or else hide it someplace.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
we can do that.
It needs some air in the tires and one rim fixed. and
Yeah, well,
Even though we're not using it, let's get it ready,
Mhm.
in case we do need to use it all of a sudden.
yeah,
Not using it, probably needs to go up to the county shop so I can get it.
Well, we need it probably as a spare. But
Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about that a little bit, since you brought it up, Dave. We got the yellow truck being used for what the white truck was. The yellow truck has 30, 40,000, I don't know, 25, 40,000. I don't know what the value of the truck is. Don't have any clue.
yeah.
And yet we got a $5,000 truck that's beat all the heck. And we're not using it for what it's designed to do, is to be down there. And I think Josh told me that the dollies is dragging.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason why they quit using it.
Yeah, for now, until, once they get the project done, we might be able to go in and build up where we can get back into using it and we're not dragging.
This is not inside the building, it's not dragging. It is on where they come off
Where
the
they-
the end of the ramps.
When they come off the ramps, going in, it drags, and when they come out, it drags.
So it's at the very top of the ramp?
Yes.
The,
I don't want that yellow truck to look like the white truck.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if we do, then we might as well just start taking rocks and throwing at it. And somehow we need to work on it to where they could use it now. I mean, because the white truck got tore up within 60 days of construction here, within the last 60 to 90 days. The whole front end, the two tires that's been flat for 60 to 90 days. And that's why we need to come up with some sort of tire program or something. And then they're just, it's going to take you to say, fellas, I'm sorry, we got to do this. Either we're going to have to shut down an hour of a morning, get this place cleaned up, or we put this new guy, maybe we give him an extra hour a day to come down and clean it up. After that, maybe see how dedicated he is to wanting a new job. We need to do some changing, because what was ain't good enough for what's going to be.
Yeah.
And so you're the man. I mean, you recommend some changes for us, and I think we'll stand behind you. But we can't throw everything at them. I understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to do something.
Okay.
And
Could we do like a tire bid at so many miles on those tires, or some criteria?
The county's got tires up at the shop to use. I mean, Road and Bridge has a good supply of
Well, I mean,
spare tires.
yeah, used tires, right?
Yeah,
But I mean, especially the one that you drive on the road, you know, you gotta keep good tires on, new tires on that.
we've just been short of help, so they haven't
Sure.
had time to do
Yeah,
odd jobs. But
yeah,
now
we
we got,
understand.
we're fully staffed this week
Yeah.
at this moment,
Yeah.
you know.
we sure don't want to take the good truck down through the bottom where there's nails that's being picked up, right down in lumber that's not being swept off the side. We're driving over the lumber and nails and stuff, because they don't have room to sweep it. I mean, and then every truckload could be a new load of nails or trash. I mean, just depends on what comes in, right, Josh?
Yep.
And so that kind of stuff's gonna have to have somebody make the decision before that truck goes out of there. We gotta clean it out so we don't drive over nails. And,
Well, if it's not I wonder, just throwing this out there, if it's not a over-the-road truck, if it's just a dolly truck around, what about a foam tire option? Because it's not, I mean, you're not trying to do high speed with it, so it's not really gonna have to be balanced. And then it can go take the abuse and never have a flat tire.
I don't know what you call a mule, yard mule or yard dog is, cost over there that you see.
Yard trucks, yeah.
But with it, I guess they do have that kind of option. No, I just heard about that here in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, they got a yard truck, like the fifth wheel would raise up. So
Yeah.
you never have to use the dollies.
Yeah.
You back up and
Yeah.
it's quicker.
And so that there's
Take two
some
trucks in
options.
for one.
We're gonna have to look at it, but we're not done with construction and stuff.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
not much use of doing it until we're done.
No, and but I think just some cleanup and stuff, and if it takes some extra time, takes extra people, we gotta come up with a plan that we're not tearing things up. Yeah, that's just pop dollars every day out of all of us sitting in here. Thank you.
Did that fence get addressed that got torn apart,
Backed over.
backed over, whatever?
I hadn't gotten to fixing that. We've been, working on everything else, but,
Put it on the list.
yeah.
All right.
I've heard a story on that, and it was knocked over 3 or 4 months ago, and just pushed back up and then got knocked over again. It would never fix right, you know. And again, it's been short of help.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
Bryce?
He got his hands full right now.
Tina, is Brad gonna be here?
He didn't say he wasn't.
Good weather, I don't know.
Well, it's interesting, I mean, he should be here for every meeting, that's the way we hire him.
But usually he's here like 10:30, 10:45 is
When
his
he
earliest.
comes, that is correct, that's why I just wanted to know if you knew if he wasn't coming.
He hasn't said that he isn't.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, I got area fuel bids. Depths was low on areas 1 and 3, MFA on area 2. So,
Make a motion to approve Dennis's recommendation on EPS on area 1 and 3.
Yes.
And MFA on area 2.
Second.
A second by Randy. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I met with Florence City Council last Monday, talking about the bridge that we were talking about east of there. Based on what I heard from the council, they would rather keep the bridge simply because it is part of their levee protection program that they have to keep up to date with the feds. And they have a local, or FEMA has worked with them. They've got a contractor hired that's gonna come in and take out the debris and stuff down below. And I guess may even be reimbursed at 100% from FEMA. The bid was only, his quote was only $17,000. Yeah, I said, you better write a check. Yeah, I mean, that was just crazy. But anyway, he's gonna remove all the drift and bring all the trees up. They have to haul off the trees because of being a archaeological possibility of stuff, so they have to haul the trees off and burn them. But other than that, and I talked to him about doing some maintenance on the deck. And so basically following up with Brad is we just have to get an agreement with the city as to exactly how that's gonna work out and everything else. But they were most of them were pretty adamant to go ahead and keep the bridge simply because they didn't want to bother the levee system. So, because they do have some damage downstream from the bridge that they're also going to fix for this also, because they obviously got to keep that levee. So, but anyway, so it's just a matter of working with Brad and getting something written up. So, I turned in the Goldenrod Bridge we talked about last week from 160th to 170th for the local bridge improvement program. That was due today. I turned it in Friday. I would like approval for sign bids. This is the next step of we're trying to do we've divided it into 8 sections. Yeah, just the last page is the total amount there. So, and that was we sent out bids to DC Signs as well as National Sign. National Sign was the only one that responded. So that's the only bid we got. So very reasonable bid. We get almost all of our signs from them. So they've done a very good job. Very good about following up on things for us.
So this would be 1/8 of the county?
Approximately, yes. They've just divided it into 8 sections. They've done 2 of them so far. This will be the 3rd one, but that does not include we've done all the 911 signs too. So that will take off some of that work for the other sections also.
All 911 signs are up?
Yes.
in the county?
Yes. I believe they are. He might have.
Okay.
I know they were getting a few extras. I don't know if whatever happened, maybe some of them have disappeared too.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
for the most part, they have made it across the county to get them all up. So.
One said Mustangs disappeared.
I don't know yet. They whatever it is about Mustang, but so I don't know if it'd be worthwhile to put game cameras up there or security lights or whatever else. I don't know. So I know they. Larry told me that one time. He said they actually pulled the post out of the ground and laid it down and took the signs off the top. So going to that much work to get that sign, so.
Being real nice and leaving the post.
Yeah, I mean, and we've got one over that ends up getting taken from the eastern part of Marion County and dropped off in Chase County, and they call us up, hey, your sign's back down here, so, for whatever it is. Yeah, it's crazy, so.
So this would be area, what designated area? Do you
I
have?
believe they've listed it different. I believe they went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the county. For some reason, that's how they split it up. So this would be the 3rd area. It doesn't follow the townships and/or section maps for the guys, so that's kind of confusing also. But
what would your area that you would label it as? Area
I believe it was 3. They've done the 1 and 2, and they're up to this next one. So he said it's the 3rd one out of 8. So I can follow up for sure and let you know. But yeah.
I guess it really doesn't matter as long as you know that area 3 that we're talking
Yep.
about.
Yep.
And I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the signage for area 3 at $18,950.53.
Second.
second by Randy. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
John, I think maybe you and Dave don't know the areas of the little map that we're talking about. You and Kent knows. Have you seen how the county's broke up in 8 sections?
I'm not.
Well, that's,
I'll get
I
you
think
that,
it's
John.
worthwhile, Bryce,
Okay.
to bring it to us so
Sure.
they know.
Sure.
And I think they're
You could email
in
it.
different sections that they start working around on.
And then the areas are broke up into 8 sections based on a lot of things, or just these signs?
Just these signs.
Sign-wise, I think, yeah.
Okay.
And the problem we have is that townships, having so many of them, would be such a small area, but all of our section maps, basically, you know, one guy will go into another section, the other one will go here, so trying to keep all that same. These are just square sections. So,
It's not the section like you're talking about, a maintainer.
right,
Right.
correct,
No,
right.
no.
Yeah, I'll get you that map, so.
Just so they can see it, that
Sure, sure.
we're not just working in one particular part of the county. And I think the original plan was to jump all over.
Sure. Yeah,
That
I'm
way
trying
you had
to,
that section done.
yeah, I'm trying to get those replaced, so.
Don't miss the railroad.
I was listening to the roofing bids, you guys were talking about some of that information. I looked what was actually specified. I guess I'd like to make a recommendation that whether all the commissioners wanted to, or maybe one of the commissioners, and maybe myself and Isaac maybe sit down and kind of went over all the specifics of what, because it's very, very difficult. By doing what we did, it's very, very difficult to compare apples to oranges. Apples to apples, because one set, they're proprietary products, they have different warranties, stuff like that, so it's kind of tough to say that they're all the same. I understand the concern of the bid bonds, or the performance bonds and stuff like that, but just making that recommendation, there's a lot to go through. I know you guys are busy too, but, you know, I think Isaac was there when every one of them met with him out there. The only one that I think I was called on was, called was Ray. Otherwise, I met with the other 3 at each one of these sites for us. So, like I said, just making that recommendation. If you want to do it, if not, you know, understand. So, but anyway, the only other thing I was talking about too was you had talked about a policy or whatever else as far as employee hours, or I should say the vacation hours and stuff like that. I'm in the exact same situation. I've got a lot of guys that have a lot of leave, that they enjoy working, they don't like to take off, so every time they get, you know, 3-4 weeks of leave, it always builds up. And same thing with comp time, especially. The guys, you know, we try to make them take comp time. Well, they said, well, I gotta take my leave, my vacation leave, because otherwise I lose it. So with the short staff too, means that they feel really bad about taking off, you know. So I mean, something to look at, you know, whether that you get set up when you get to, and trust me, we're trying to get these guys to take off as much as we can. We're unique, and the fact is, when we have a guy on call all weekend and get paid the 8 hours of comp time for doing that, that adds up too. So anyway, just something to think about, you know, for a future. Like I said, we would love to keep them down, but between the vacation and the comp time, the sick leave is one thing, because that you know, accrues and really no stop to it. But
I know in the past, it's come up several times about getting away from comp time, just going straight overtime.
yeah, because I honestly, yeah,
Take care of some of those issues.
yeah, whether it's comp time or whatever else, to say that it's a liability for me, it is, because the guys have to take off, and forces us into, you know. So anyway, just something to think about, whatever that may be. But yeah, I've got guys that, several guys over 100 hours of comp time, and like I said, when they get 4 weeks of vacation, you know, we've got guys that are taking off a day a week for several months, just trying to get that knocked down, and it's not like they want to, but, or they'll take a whole week off at one time, which, so we got fortunate where some of them are farmers, where that helps a lot. Eventually in the fall they can take off time, but some of them aren't. So, but anyway, something to think about. So
Bryce, are you putting out or checking into any rock bids? I mean, we're at the end of October now.
right, I did check with Sam Harshman. He is still backhauling the material back to Florence from the Waverly quarry.
And so he was checking on the status of that, and I got calls in to all the other ones, and they haven't got back with them yet, so.
How many other ones?
Well, I called APAC, the ones we dealt with, APAC and Nelson, and I guess Woodbine was the other one, so.
Right, so you're not actually submitting a bid to them, X amount of tons or
Well,
whatever?
not yet.
Because I
and
know
that's-
they want to pre-crush.
Right. And again, most of them said they really weren't too concerned about it because they could make whatever we wanted. But the biggest thing we're trying to come up with is where to, not only once we get it crushed and or hauled, as to where we want to stockpile it, to try to make it as advantageous as we can for the county, so. Anything else? No? Okay, thanks.
Thanks. All right. Rebecca. I don't think she's peeked out the door a couple times, but I haven't seen her lately.
Used to call her.
Rebecca?
Uniform
You
system.
gotta be careful, the mic's here, it might blow
Blast
somebody's-
somebody's ear.
Yeah.
FYI, I have to leave at noon.
Okay. Conversation.
And I might leave for a little while. In about 20 minutes, I have a conference call I'd like to get on. Should be short. Just go ahead.
I don't see much of this going on for you anymore, but,
Anthony, you want to talk
Morning.
about
yeah, well, that might be a little bit.
It finally happened. My old faithful copy machine finally gave up the ghost. I almost feel like we need a moment of silence or something, since that copy machine has been faithful since 2007. That's why I decided not to try to have it repaired. So I approached 3 different companies, and I gave them a list of the things that a copy machine in my office needs to be able to do. We have kind of a unique situation because our copy machine sits on top of a cabinet. It's not on the floor. And so Joe and I are both kind of short, so that created some issues. So basically I got answers back from 3 different companies, and I felt kind of like Goldilocks. The first one that I got back was only 13.78 inches by 19.41 inches by 25.39 inches. And it only had 2 drawers, both of which would only handle regular letter size paper. Most of the copies that we make require legal size paper because we're shrinking the books. So that eliminated that option. The next option was too tall. The copy machine itself, without the addition of the multiple page feed, was 31 inches tall. When you add the 31 inches on top of the cabinet that it sits on, even if Joe or I stood on our tiptoes, there's no way we could put that book on top of that cabinet to make a copy. So that left me with option number 3, which is from 360 Document Solutions. It's a Kyocera EcoSys M4125 IDN. The purchase price on that is $4,002, and this is going to come out of my tech fund. So I'll get that ordered. Second thing I wanted to let you know, we've often talked about how important the old track books are in my office. The last time I had to order a new track book, I was out of space to store it. So it ended up on the very, very top of the cabinet, standing upright, which is not good for the books. So a few months ago, Grant County had a roller shelf that they were offering to anyone who would come and get it. So Joe loaded up her car, drove to Grant County, and brought a roller shelf back for us. just for fun, I went online to see what it would cost to get a replacement. I couldn't find anything similar, but back in 1956, when we ordered the original ones, they were about $500. So I think we got a pretty good deal on that. And the other thing I need to let you know, I'm not ready right now, but at some point, I will need to start looking for a part-time person. We have that in the budget, the 999 hours. And we're still thinking about some logistics on that, but at some point, I'll need to do that. That's all I got.
And what do you expect to come up that you'll need to hire a part-time person?
Because of the nature of our office, we need someone who can at least be in the office in the event that Joe or I are absent. And occasionally, when we get a whole bunch of stuff from, say, an oil company or a wind farm company or certain things like that, we really need an extra person in the office.
So basically, you're thinking about the wind farm right at this point in time?
Not necessarily specifically. I know in the past we have had a lot of oil stuff come in boxes. So at that time, it's helpful to have a person. The other thing is, in the deeds office, there is an awfully lot that happens that's not really written down. Having a part-time person there would allow them to absorb what's going on, hear the conversations as people come in, hear the telephone calls, and then if it works out, ultimately, if Joe were to decide to retire, my hope would be that perhaps that part-time person would move up to full-time. So I'm looking very much at a long-range thing with a part-time person.
You want to train somebody.
Right. Because it's not a job you walk in on Monday and are doing well by Friday.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, that conversations would be, that you'd want to have an extra ear just to hear them or something.
Right.
I mean, that's interesting. I never thought of that for any type of department, just to have staff there to hear conversations of things that are not written.
Right, and there's actually an official name for that. It's called industrial memory. And that's something that you really need, someone who knows the history of something and knows the reason why things are done the way they are, or can go back and say, oh yeah, I remember that one. And so having a person in the office will help prepare them.
All goes back to we need more storage.
Well, you know, I was gonna bring that up, Kent, because I figured if the copy machine died, and it's been here forever, and I've been talking about needing storage forever, the two things ought to kind of go together.
Just another department that needs it.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Sorry. The rich.
It's all right. They ain't throwing a wrench in mine, I got all day. All right, let's move on to the Commission Judicial Nominating Committee appointment. I think that was head ended by Kent, so I'll let you take the floor.
Well, I have a person to nominate, but others in the commission may also. I could start anyway. Okay, I would like to nominate Daryl Enos of Marion for the Judicial Nominating Committee appointment for Marion County. Longtime educator, now in private business with his wife. He would be a person I would consider that has a great deal of knowledge of Constitution, Bill of Rights. He's studied a lot about our founding fathers, how they established this nation, set up the different branches of government. He's very astute when it comes to that. I just think we need a person like that when it comes to appointing judges to represent the county.
I think, didn't he write us a letter once? I thought I read a letter that he'd written or something. It was a beautiful letter.
I think
It
he
was
maybe
perfect.
did. I think possibly he
Very
did.
detailed and very much to the Constitution and
Yeah,
rights and things that.
You know, I don't know how you label a person a constitutionalist, but I've heard that term a lot
It's
with-
someone that really
in
studies
the
it.
Supreme Court nomination and that sort of thing.
It's a good word this week.
We usually describe them as an originalist.
Originalist, constitutionalist, however you wanna frame it.
Isn't, the lumber business,
No, he and his wife own a framing and furniture business,
okay, yeah.
and then he does all of the, furniture making at a shop he has at his home, South America, well, right out on the edge of Marion here.
Well, if he is the person that wrote that letter that I'm thinking he is, and I certainly think he'd be a nice, I think he'd be an excellent choice.
We also had a letter from the district court judge, so maybe you've all had time to.
Basically, lays out that, we need to expedite this decision.
Yeah, they need to start, what, early December?
December
in the
2nd, I
nomination
think they have
process.
to fill a, an opening. And
So with that being said, I'd nominate Daryl Venus.
second, sounds like somebody I would pick. Any other discussion?
I'd like to nominate somebody.
Oh, okay. Well, we got a nomination.
I don't know how you do that.
You wanna withdraw your motion?
I'll withdraw my nomination
So,
since he has a nomination.
No,
We didn't know
Well,
there
the
was another.
motion,
Yeah,
I mean, he
yeah,
can-
that's
you
why I
can
said
put
there might be
forward-
somebody else.
Withdraw the motion, not the
Sure.
nomination.
Okay,
Yeah.
I withdraw that.
draw the motion. Yeah, I would like to go with recommendation of Judge Powers recommended Kevin Freesty. And he's been on this board before. And was, been involved in banking and business and very thorough on his decisions, what I've dealt with in the past. And have you all, everybody read the letter or?
Yeah, I
Did you
did.
read it?
No, I glanced at it,
Okay.
but I'm sticking with my first one. I like the first one first.
Okay.
So I think you would just ask if there are any other nominations.
Is there any other nominations? Okay. All in favor of the first nomination, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All in favor of the second nomination, same sign?
Aye.
So, we'll go ahead. Let Kent make a motion for,
I'll make a motion to nominate Daryl Venus for the judicial nominating committee appointment.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
What we just took a vote.
Yeah.
That was kind of an informal, I think.
Okay.
Whereas
Okay.
without a motion on the
Okay.
floor.
Well, in my feelings here is, yes, I have my vote, my first vote here, and we got the feeling that, but, I will vote for Daryl because that's the group, and I will stand with the committee here and go with the group, so my vote would be yes for, since an informal vote was taken first.
We have a 5-0 vote then.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, very good. I just trying to weigh out the two.
Right, I thought we was taking the original vote was gonna count, see, that's why I was,
I didn't know, and I guess it probably should have. I just,
Get two choices.
but it
two
also
chances.
allows.
I guess good.
Well, you took a vote without a motion on the table. You know, so I would just write it down as an
eliminated one
informal.
yeah.
That's just how I've seen some of the other nomination processes come to.
It works.
Okay, okay.
Moving on.
Yeah, I'm watching a little bit of C-SPAN.
Well, you must be bored.
Sometimes it's pretty sleepless nights. All right. So, with that one in the books, go on to Carl Miller's department update.
Just a question. Do you, if we go a formal letter to him with that, for that nomination, will that come from the county?
Yes, I think so.
And we would ask him whether he would accept or not on that letter?
Oh, no, I mean, I assume that you've already.
Just a letter of acknowledging, but is what I would.
I thought that you just did a letter to the court saying who you've appointed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever that process is, I was just asking what the process was then.
And this, I'll need the contact information for that gentleman, and you also, I mean, I assume that he said, yes, he's willing to serve, and, okay. So I think it's
I'll
been
go
a
ask
while
him-
since
I'll
we
go
did
ask
it.
him after.
Yeah, but I think that we would both
Right.
notify him and the
Right.
court,
Right.
or the judicial district.
Okay. All right, so, there's Carl, there's Nikki. Very good, I was just gonna ask, and Brian.
How we doing?
Got a full
Everybody
house.
doing okay? I'll hand this to you guys real quick. That's all right.
Oh, thanks.
What we're kind of doing today, just kind of want, you want me over that?
Yeah, yeah.
Because we have a virtual meeting going also,
Yes.
nobody can hear you if you're not speaking into the microphone.
Okay.
You can take the mask off too.
If you want to. Yeah, if you want
Okay.
to.
What we want to do is, the reason Nikki and Brian came up with me, is to kind of fill you guys in on how we're doing and where we're at right now. And the best way I thought is to go ahead and just give you, if you guys remember this here, this is a compliance code. And as you can see, there's some things that we've already sent through email to the state for the compliance. We just finished up a couple things this morning, and we actually revised a couple things also, where we kind of put our heads together and thought it would help out on the small communities, the small towns, on the land values and so forth, and then we can use more depreciation for the dwellings and so forth. So, if you have any questions for them, but I think we've added some lines to some things. I think we're doing some good things as far as using those lower dollar sales to help appraise the lower dollar properties. That's kind of what we're looking at and so forth. And just to let you guys know that we're staying up with the state's guidelines and so forth on getting everything done. And I think they're both doing good. I think the whole staff is doing good, to be honest with you. I hope they're happy. I mean,
We are
happy.
So far.
If you're not, don't say anything.
So I just wanted to come up and see if you guys had any questions for each one of us. We talked, when the first time I met the board here, that you guys would like to kind of keep up with what's going on, where we're at, and how it's working, if it's working good or if it's not working good at all, to let you know. I'm happy.
I think I see smiles behind the masks.
Okay.
It's kind of hard, you judging on eyes. So.
Okay.
Put the mask back.
Should we do this today, or?
Yeah, I think we want to do that, but we can go ahead and do that after.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, Brian and Nikki both have taken me out, and we've looked at sales. We went to every town. We've done a lot of things. They've helped me out a lot.
Wow. Sure you didn't spend all week here?
You found out how big Marion County is?
It's a big county. I mean, it really is. Yeah.
Lots of roads.
And there's lots of roads. Yeah. I bet your old bridge is busy. And they're icy today. But no, I'm happy. I mean, we sent some stuff off to the state, and we're using Nikki and Brian's password email. That way, there's nothing left out when they have a question. Then of course they're both going to see that email on there. I think Nikki's going to go to the director's update. It's November 17th and 18th in Wichita. I'm going to that. We looked at Brian's. Nikki needs how many points? 15?
I just need 15 seminar credits, but well, I need to find out what use path was.
Okay. Okay. With COVID, I think Brian, for some reason, Brian kind of fell behind on taking some classes. So when we get that educational guide out it comes out the end of December, first part of January, I think, to be fair to Brian, we need to load him up on some classes. Because going through to getting your RMA designation is extremely hard. It's expensive to the county, and you need 42 points for it, something like that.
Yes.
And some of those are tested. So I think we pick out some classes that will help him. I think he'll be just fine there. He's not the only one that has been, that got, because COVID canceled a lot of classes. A lot of exams were canceled. And I think PBD is gonna have to work around that. But right now they're doing some classes by virtual, and then you take the exam by virtual also. But those you just have to have a camera on the computer to make sure it's Brian and not somebody else.
Make sure you get yourself a cardboard cutout. Set it there in front.
So I think we're have that addressed, and we're getting him in those classes, and I think they'll be fine. So I'm already fine on my classes. I think the first time I talked to you guys, I had to take my last one, and so I have all my points on that now. So.
And you passed.
I passed.
Oh, okay.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That would be important. So, if you guys have do you have any questions for us, or Nikki or Brian? Do you guys tell them how you think? I mean,
Speaking for the commission, we have full faith in our staff down there, and hopefully soon we'll have full faith in Carl Miller.
We've learned a lot already. So it's a lot of information for one day sometimes, but we get it. So definitely learning new things.
That's something Carl said he'd bring to the table, so I'm glad to hear that you said you learned.
Oh yeah.
Very good.
So far, every day he's been here, we learned something new. Lots of things, lots of new things. So.
Nikki's like thinking, "Oh my gosh, here we go again."
Well, and I think every one of them, it's not a set pattern. I mean, there's things you have to do by set pattern, but everybody has a different feel for the job and output for the job. And as we've known, as I've sat here and listened to 3 or 4 different appraisers, and there's different things in different ways that can be transcribed to the public, and yet they accept it sometimes, and yet they don't by some people. So, I think that's something that we all learn from other people. It's just a good deal. I think that's why we decided to go with you, is because we wanted you to bring some different things, so these people have some different things to learn from. So.
Thanks. Well, I think like Brian, like we even talked this morning, the oil and gas class is in February. Is it February? It was February.
It's usually February, yeah.
Which is hard because that's when we mail out the valuation notices and so forth. But in this particular case, I think, like I told Brian, if he has hearings or something, he'll go to the class, and then I'll just do his hearings, or we'll work around that. But we're going to let him go to them classes this year.
Okay.
And then he'll bring back some oil experience then too.
Great.
So I think that would be great. I've enjoyed working with them. I really have.
Do we have somebody assigned to oil right now? Michelle is.
And for oil, it's not bad to have 1 or 2 opinions, or
Right.
1 or 2 people. Yeah.
Especially after last year when they dropped every.
The valuation.
That sure did hurt, didn't it?
Boy, you hear that from western Kansas. That valuation's really biting.
So, as far as the property valuation, does that include studies? Is that?
This right here, this all has to do with the studies.
Yeah.
And the summaries and the analysis and so forth. Is that what she's asking?
Yeah, I was asking more along the lines of, if you were saying you were educating in property evaluation, would that term include studies, basically, with that?
Yes, that's actually what we're all 3 of us was down there in that little office area back there, and we're actually working on the single wide and double wide mobile homes today.
Okay.
And so there's we're flip-flopping chairs a lot. So Nikki can get in there and do it, and then Brian does it, and so yeah.
On hands.
On hand.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Great. I see that's coming up 1st of January and 1st of February, residential and commercial.
We actually have the residential, we actually finished that last week. We actually got the residential depreciation finished last week, and now the MH depreciation is what we're working on. And you have to break that down and whether the mobile homes are single wide or if they're double wide. They depreciate different, and they each have their own depreciation date. So that's actually what we were working on this morning. I don't know in the past, and Brian and Nikki haven't even talked about this. When we get the new ag use values, does the appraiser come up and keep you guys informed, since we're an agricultural county, on what the ag land does from one prior year to the other?
Usually on an update somewhere, lets us know.
Okay.
Right.
I think that's pretty important,
Yep.
and we're supposed to get those values the first or second week of December, and maybe we can come up together, because that'll be the first time you guys are gonna know what's actually gonna happen later in the year then, or when we mail out the valuation notices. I think in most counties, commissioners get phone calls if their ag values go up. I think it's only fair to let the commission know what's going on.
Appreciate that.
I know it's a little bit, he gave us really a trial run before we got any kind of signed documentation from us. So at this time, we're going to approve the most recent employment agreement. That
We haven't agreement yet, do we?
Yeah. So, it's like a test drive, man. I never got this kind of service. So, for Carl Miller on the appraiser, dated 13th day of October.
I just had a question
Oh.
on that insert, on that, the last sentence. It says, "and assist in daily appraisal activities will all appraisers' office staff," which should that
Should be
with?
with.
Anybody else have any?
No,
That's
that's
all
all.
second. Second by Randy. With,
I'll make the grammatical correction.
grammatical correction. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Good.
Okay, I'll go make that correction and then you can all sign it.
Okay.
That's-
Oh, okay.
Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay.
I usually operate on a smile and a handshake, but gotta make sure we get the paperwork done.
Well, this was actually the first contract I've done, because, working in the counties, I just do that 4-year.
Right.
And we sign, and then that's it. But, I learned about 10 years ago that just about all the appraisers had a contract on top of that. So I think I've been there so long that we just did that and moved
Too
on,
late, huh?
and everybody was good. But it was good. That was good learning for me also on that. What all the appraisers are doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Just almost a year being in this room, I've started to become more and more of a stickler for contracts. Not because more of other things. So.
Okay.
Just part of a procedural thing. I think we just need to keep it.
July 1st or June 1st that the state contracts are coming?
It's like June 30th.
June 30th.
They want you to have somebody in place
It does say so.
by July 1st.
So.
Yes. Yep, you're right.
That's the first of something. I knew what.
You're right.
Did you hire some more help yet? Or are you looking?
We have a couple applications, and I haven't really looked at them yet.
Not a big priority.
It is, but I
think
think
we-
we wanted to go through that land and stuff first, and because it had to be turned in.
Because I think I told you guys, we were at the point of this, we were probably 3 weeks behind, and so we're getting that.
Did you have a brief?
Thank you, ma'am. So, you know, we thought this year was a priority to get everything. I was really impressed with it, you know, when we did the revision on the land, it really, it fell into place, didn't it? I mean, when we made some changes and so forth, and it was nice. I know you're busy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think we are, well, we haven't talked to the other girls in the office, but we will probably advertise for my position at the front desk. Since we're already up here, I figured we'd lay it down instead of having to come back up for a week or two, but.
That's just Nikki saying that her position would be advertised soon. She's telling me.
I don't talk about
Make it official.
Well, that way everybody out there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, Anthony.
Hello, guys. You guys mind if I take this off while I talk?
It's up to you.
Please, up to you.
All right, well, are you guys ready for me to start, or?
Yes, we're at that point. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just here to kind of talk about, you know, what's occurred with the county's EOP. I know Mr. Frank was here last week to talk with you guys, and so I just wanted a chance to talk to you guys, kind of share, at least from my perspective, what happened. So on September 2nd, I requested the county's EOP directly from Mr. Frank. At the time, I thought it was a pretty simple request. I didn't really feel like I needed to do an open record request at that time. To me, it was a request from the city of Hillsborough to the county for the document. It was apparent after that email exchange with him on the 2nd that he wasn't going to share the plan with me. Up until Tina told me sometime later, I think sometime after September 14th, I had no idea that the plan needed to be redacted. He never shared that with me. You know, I got that from Tina. So on September 11th, I turned in an open records request to Tina for the document. After I submitted that request, I communicated just with Tina. I think that's probably your guys' policy once you've requested a document to deal with the public information officer. The reason there's kind of a lag between when I talked to him September 2nd and when the request was in September 11th is I took vacation to Colorado. And then believe it or not, as Economic Development Director, emergency management is not my primary duty. So I had some other things I needed to deal with both right before I went on vacation and when I came back. Yeah, had that not occurred, she would have received the request probably on September 3rd, but I was not in the office September 3rd. Mr. Frank did ask me on September 8th to call him and set up a meeting. Like I said, I was on vacation. When I came back, I submitted the request. I did not at that point feel like I needed to, you know, at that point on September 2nd, it felt to me he wasn't going to share the plan, so I turned in the open records request. And the fact is, you know, if I had met with him, he did not have the plan ready at that point. Because I didn't get it until 2 weeks ago, 2 Wednesdays ago, not last Wednesday, but the Wednesday before. And I do want to clarify that at no point was the city going to copy the county's plan. That's never been a discussion that we've had, the city of Hillsborough. That would not work for us, as Mr. Frank said. Your guys' plan is very general in nature, as it should be, and ours is extremely specific. Somebody can look at our plan and they know exactly what it is that they need to be doing. You know, the reasoning behind that request was our old plan has reference to the county's plan. It's not specific. It doesn't say in section A, you know, or it doesn't list a page number. It's very, very generic. I've since removed all those references because after receiving the county plan, you know, there really wasn't a need to have those references there. We fleshed out the plan on our own. However, regardless of those references, I wanted to make sure that the county's plan is an appendix to our plan. In other words, when we've got our plan completely updated, you know, we'll probably put them in binders or something like that, and within those binders, the county's plan will be there. I have no issue with the redactions that were needed. If there is secure information, as Mr. Frank and Tina, you know, if they feel like there's some secure information the public doesn't need, I 100% understand. You know, I totally get that. I don't have a problem with redactions. It's just a little frustrating that, one, that I had to submit an open records request to get the plan. And two, that there was never communication with me from him that prior to the open records request that said, hey, I'm gonna need a little time to do the redaction. You know, simple communication like that would have led to me not needing to be here today. I think anybody can tell you I'm pretty easygoing. I would have allowed, you know, as much time as he needed to get it done. But it was just the complete lack of communication from him to me that caused me to have to submit an open records request. Further, after reviewing the county's EOP, you know, I found, you know, there's a section dedicated to local governments, like a city, and we have some responsibilities within that plan. And, you know, how are we supposed to honor those responsibilities that are expected of us if we don't know that we have some responsibilities? And I knew when I requested the EOP that there would be a section like that within the plan. I'm not an expert at emergency management. Randy Frank knows way more about it than I do, but I have spent some time, you know, in that realm. And so I knew that there was probably a section about local governments. So without that plan, and prior to receiving the plan, we had no knowledge of what those responsibilities were. So that's another reason why we need a copy of the EOP. You know, at the end of the day, Mr. Frank is the only emergency management professional in this county, to my knowledge. None of the cities have emergency management directors. I think we don't at the city. We kind of rely on the county and on him to guide us and what it is that we need to do. We don't know what we need to do unless somebody tells us. And you know, if you guys have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. I just wanted to take a minute and just kind of share my perspective on what occurred. I did last Thursday, after I watched last week's commission meeting, I did request that fillable form that he had talked about. I'm not really sure what it is, but I did request it last Thursday. I haven't received it yet, but you know, he's probably got other things to do. So I didn't submit an open records request for that document. I don't know if I need to. But since he had mentioned it here, I went ahead and requested the document from him.
So I have some questions for you, if you don't mind. I just sat here and heard you say that, because we were talking about a time frame, that it took so long to get this to you, and you just confessed that you were on vacation, so some of that time frame was not as long as what we were originally presented because of your vacation. And then the second thing that I will say is when Randy was here, he had emails that he read. I mean, he wasn't just going by memory, or I said this or I said that. He actually had emails. Now, I did request from him a copy of those emails. He offered them to us. I did request them from him, as a matter of fact, on Sunday. I sent them email and asked me if he would send them to me, and he did. So, and I did not go back and read them all, but I want to go back and read them all because I'm under the impression that he did offer to you, and you said just a minute ago that he did offer for you to come over, and why did you not do that?
One, because when he had made the offer, I was out of town. And two, prior to him even sending that email, I'd made the decision I was submitting an open records request. So at the time, that's why. And then thirdly, let's imagine that I did meet with him. The fact is, he did not have a redacted copy of the plan ready to go. So that would have accomplished nothing.
So actually, in our minutes today, Tina wrote this very good, that there was a perception about this communication. And what I'm listening to you is you come to a lot of conclusions, because if he made an offer and you just assumed this wasn't there and you just assumed that, then quite frankly, my opinion is that the communication breakdown comes from you. Because he ran emails to where he offered several times. Now granted, you may have been out of town for a while, but when you come back, you've already made up your mind to file CORA. So I mean, I personally feel as though the communication breakdown lies on your lap. And you also stated that there was a specific part in there that applies to cities and things like that, which is what you were pertinently looking for. And if I'm not mistaken, one of those emails that I kind of glanced over said, what specific are you looking for? And of course, you didn't respond to that either, to tell him what it was, because he was going to give specifically what you were looking for. So I'm glad you came to clear this up, really, because I wanted to make sure the truth, as Jonah made mention last week, was brought out. And I wanted to make sure that the truth was brought out, and you did clarify the truth to my satisfaction. And I appreciate that. But I want to say one other thing. Filing a CORA in this county is commonplace. Even as a commissioner, I have to file a CORA oftentimes to get information. So don't feel alone.
To answer your last point, which you listed off a lot of things, and my memory's not the greatest.
Should be as young as you are.
I know it should be, but unfortunately it's not. You know, I made the request with the assumption that an open records request wouldn't even be needed. That wasn't even something I thought about when I sent the email on the 2nd to him. Had he stated he had submitted an open records request to Tina for the document, you know, it would have been taken care of. As for you, you know, he did send emails asking me, what part of the plan are you looking for? I was looking for the entire plan. Yes, I knew that there was a section on there about local governments, or I assumed that there was. I needed the whole document because I felt like the city needed a copy of the document. So, and I made it clear to him what I wanted. I wanted the full document. So I would dispute that I didn't tell him what I needed, because I told him I need the whole plan.
Okay. So would you also agree then that maybe the fact that you did not respond to him, even though you were out of town, when you got back, maybe pursuing a little bit more? Randy, I sent this to you a week or two ago and I was on vacation. Maybe I could meet with you. Do you agree that maybe you failed a little bit in that respect
As
as
per
well?
what I believe your policy is, once an open records request is made, you communicate to the public information officer, and that's what I did.
So then you default back to your conviction that you were convinced that an open record was the way you were going to go?
Yeah, that was what was needed to get the plan.
All right, you answered my question.
I'm going to test the sum of it, because it was brought to our attention. Go ahead and chime in whenever you want, Ken, but that no results were happening, and there was a request by the commissioner to produce the EOB.
I assume it's Kent, because nobody said anything, it wasn't brought up in the
Right.
commission.
Assuming
It
that,
wasn't brought up to us either.
so, and then that would have been right around the, I remember the 14th, 15th, 16th, somewhere around there. So for.
Do we not shut cell phones off before they come in here?
But anyway, so I'm just in his defense, he did reach out in different ways, even when.
He reached out in one way, he made a request, and went on vacation, and then came back and decided to do a quora.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
you know, if somebody asks a request of you, you kind of expect them to, you shouldn't have to stay on them every day.
Okay, so we just talked about communication. Goes back and forth 2 ways.
Right.
Okay, so if I request, and I've done it, I request stuff already, and then I had to file quora. I mean, it's just kind of, I mean, just because I, Diane, say I want this, I mean, nobody's falling at my feet because I want it. You know, people are busy and have their own things, and the number of days, and with him going on vacation, I mean, I think the whole thing has been blown way out of proportion. And honestly, I think both sides are a little guilty. I'm certainly not gonna say it's Randy Frank's fault, because he has confessed that he too has failed in the communication.
Yeah.
So I'm saying it's both.
Yeah,
The
well,
communication failed on both sides.
Okay, but then you have a commissioner that says, get it done, and then 3 weeks, 4 weeks go by. I mean, at what point does it not become insubordination?
Okay, so here's where it becomes a question I would ask you. Where does a commissioner have the authority to do that? It has to come before the commission. A commissioner outside this board cannot do
Right.
that.
Right.
Okay, right.
The issue that I brought up
But
was,
you tried, haven't you?
No,
And-
I have a blame, but I never tried.
if you remember what we were talking about
Yeah.
last week, this is a document that needs to be in the hands of not just the emergency manager. This is a document that needs to be in the hands of the clerk, in the hands of every department, and since there is some city responsibility, as Anthony related to, every city needs to have a copy of it. And I even brought up, maybe even every school district needs to have a copy of it. And Mr. Frank responded, well, nobody's asked.
Okay, so what's wrong with that? As a
But
matter
I
of
mean,
fact,
when-
I don't think that is a state requirement.
When
I
you
may be
redact,
wrong.
when you have a plan and you redact it, shouldn't then that go to replace the one that you either had or you didn't have that
So-
was needed?
So the best way I can put this, and I don't know how to make it any more clear,
Can't come like
is,
this.
well, yeah, it's, say a hypothetical, say we are in the midst of an emergency situation. Are we gonna wait for our emergency manager to develop a redacted plan to get to everybody the day of that emergency?
No, but
It needs to be ready to go.
I got that. I got that entirely. But you can also go back to the other, what was that called? Where we do each department head does. He's been trying to get them to do that too, and they just don't do it. And that was brought before the commission, and we have not encouraged the department heads to do that. Now, I'm not gonna divert on that because I know that's a different subject matter. But I'm just simply saying, I'm thinking the time frame here
I'm just
is
saying that there shouldn't have
exploded.
been a time frame. There should have been a redacted copy ready to go.
I'm gonna check the state rules on that, because I'm thinking that the county level does not have to, or is not required to do that. I'm gonna find out though for sure.
Throw another hypothetical. So we have an emergency situation, and the emergency manager is the one that gets, God forbid, harmed in the emergency situation. Who do we have then that redacts the plan if we don't even have the person with the open records capability to even review what needs to be redacted? They didn't have it either.
Well, you
What
know,
I'm saying is there's everything's hinge pinned on one person here.
That's all
And if
our
that one
fault.
person comes and is endangered by the emergency situation, we're all in trouble.
And you know, Jonah, you can sit there and you can bring up every hypothetical you want. The sky's the limit, I got that. But this is the way our county is structured. You got one emergency manager. He is a one-man band and has been forever by design. And we even have a proposed commissioner right here who wants to cut him back to part-time, okay? Now, you also have somebody else now working in his office, which is a pretty important person. She's doing it very well, I understand. So that would be the next person that I would answer to your question, that in case something, like Randy got hurt or something, there would be somebody now in the office that could handle that. Before, we didn't even have that. Now, I'm just saying there is somebody now that could pick up the pieces, and is there to pick up the pieces when he's not there or to assist? So, and I'm not disputing what you're saying, but my dispute is, when we talk about communication, we know that's two ways. So when you have somebody come here that said, oh, well, I was on vacation, so I couldn't get the results, and then I came back and I already made up my mind, I'm not gonna talk to him, he did offer to sit with me, which is what Randy said, but I'm not gonna do it, I'm gonna do the Cora. That right there also has to be taken into consideration. When you have somebody that presents themselves like that, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna throw Randy under the bus because Hillsborough asked for something and he didn't get it like this when they were on vacation and then came back and refused to sit with him.
Wouldn't say they didn't get it like this. There was a few weeks that went by.
Okay, well, is that detrimental? I mean, we're not in one of your hypothetical situations right now. Is that he does have it now? I'm pretty sure he has it. And I also think
yeah, but it took him.
I think the administrator also has it.
Put him on the agenda.
Okay, so what
and
are you
then he produces it the day before. That doesn't give the appearance like it was ready to go.
So my question is, Brad, is that emergency management plan a classified plan, quote unquote?
And shouldn't every
Or
commissioner?
is it a public document that should be available to public officials?
It's been my experience with the various other counties and cities that it's generally distributed. And I understand Randy's point to the extent that there's something in there that is a security risk very similar to when we get an open records request. There are certain things that statutorily can be redacted. That also, though, I guess I want to make the point, didn't happen here. What did happen, what we've been referring to as a redacted copy is inaccurate. What we got was an edited copy. We still need to fix that. Because as I understand it, we got the full, which I requested that he deliver, and he did. And then what I refer to as a redacted copy. It's not redacted. I mean, it isn't just blacked out. It was changed.
It'd be more appropriate to call it a public copy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There aren't any black boxes in the document or anything like that. And I did right before submitting open request, I did go look at the Kansas statutes related to this. I'm not a lawyer, but my interpretation of it is that they definitely can redact portions of it that are sensitive. I 100% support that. But the document, the first page of it actually says that it is not for public disclosure because it's Kansas state statute, which is wrong in my opinion. You know, that this plan is not exempt from open records. Portions of it could be, but the plan itself is not.
I don't disagree with that. I think that's correct.
So how do we determine which parts are and which parts aren't?
We're supposed to be allowed to see it though, as commissioners.
Did we request it?
Yes.
I didn't. When did we request it? As a commission, when did we request it?
I don't think you have to as a commissioner.
Well, I just asked
You are
that
as a
question. I just
commissioner,
asked a
you are
question.
entitled to see it.
I just asked
So
that
you don't have
question.
to have
As a
the commission.
commission, did we request it?
Randy, at one time, there was always a copy.
Always a copy of it right here in our files where before we changed and got to the bigger room here, we had copies in our corner. Everything was up there that was there. When that got taken out, I suppose the last time that I even didn't think, don't know where they went.
Who took them?
They're downstairs in
they're
storage.
downstairs, yeah.
But the thing is, the commission never received the most recent plan after the current emergency manager came to Marion County. The one that we had was an old plan from the previous director, I believe.
Anthony, thank you for coming today. I'm going to tell you that you're not the only person that's been turned down by that gentleman in our county. We have other people that's been turned down over a year ago because they asked for just what you did. Same thing. They asked just to be simple so they could know because their job depended on it too. And apparently like yours might have, or was tried to or something like that. But they got turned down the same way that you got turned down. And that's not the kind of people that I like working for Marion County if they cannot work with our public, our department heads, and get everything out. Somewhere we've got a failure in that department to not be very open with what we know and how we can work together. And it's going to change because I'm tired of it. This is not the first time. This is not the first time this kind of thing has happened.
Well, yeah, we got that might be a
I think
executive.
that you've already stepped in it.
No, I'm just
I
saying,
know.
it's a simple deal, that he didn't do to another person the same, he didn't treat them the same way as he treated Anthony.
We actually, there was a request for it to stay open through the last meeting, so this was brought out into the public light.
If I could just mention a few things. One, I did communicate with Jonah and Ken kind of on the beginning of this. I don't remember when I first reached out to him. I can't remember if it was before vacation or after vacation. I had looked through my emails and find out exactly. My reasoning for not being here until today is that this does delve into personnel issues. And regardless of what happened, I don't, I want to respect Randy's privacy too. He did decide to do it in open session, and that's part of why I'm here today. So I did communicate to Kent and Joan. I didn't come before all of you before now because I want to respect his privacy.
That's why I did that.
As a public employee,
Open session, so people know.
I respect that. I will say that I've got all the emails here between Randy and I, and also the emails between Tina and I. If any of you guys would like a copy of that, I'd be happy to share with them. I think Ken and Jonah each already have a copy. I will say that I've looked at these emails several times. It was very clear in my mind that I told Randy, I want the whole plan. And every email in which I said that, it was, well, what part of the plan? I want the whole plan. I mean, it's that simple. And I'll admit that I was frustrated. And I did probably come into that request a little bit biased because, as Randy Dalkey said, I've heard all those things too that you just mentioned. I've heard those previously. And so, between that and, the lack of him giving me the plan just led me to believe that anything but an open records request is a waste of my time.
Well, you also said, if I recall, that you were capable of going online and going to another county and actually pulling their whole document.
I guess that's kind of what stirred me.
So why is it so difficult to get
Harvey
to
County's plan, all 169 pages of it is online. That one I know is online. As soon as that was the first county I looked at, it was online. I didn't go search all 104 other counties to look, but my guess is quite a few of them are online. The ones that aren't online, my guess is if you call the emergency manager, they probably send it. But I didn't do any research. As soon as I saw that it was online in Harvey County, I didn't look any further. But I'm sure that's kind of standard.
And you did correspond to Jonah and I both on the 2nd.
Okay, it's kind of how I remembered it, but I wasn't sure exactly. And I'd go a step further and say, why did I have to request it anyways? Why did we not have a copy? I realize that we share some responsibility in that, but the fact is, none of the cities, school districts, etc., in this county have emergency managers. I can probably guarantee that the city of Peabody or city of Lehigh, city of Durham have no idea that that's probably a document they need to have.
And that goes back to a request, and I get that. That part I don't dispute. I mean, if you think you need it, you should be able to ask for it. My problem is why isn't one ready to go?
And I'm also gonna say, I don't understand why 2 commissioners have a whole lot more information than the rest of the commission. That should not be.
It's our district. It's our district.
It doesn't matter. You have to share.
You always say
with
on
the
behalf
commission.
of District Number 2, I'm speaking for the people. Well,
I always say
we
I'm
are
speaking
now,
for
for District
my-
1 and 5.
But when there's stuff in my district, I bring it before the commission, just like Randy does, just like we do. You can't make decisions outside of here yourself.
We're not.
We didn't make any decisions.
Well, you are.
No, we're
Yes,
not.
you are. You've come to a conclusion, and look at this, you've moved into a great big deal, and we didn't even know, well, I don't know, maybe they did. I didn't know about it, here it is a month and a half later, and it's a big deal. I mean, last week was the first I heard of it.
It's because we were trying to handle it with Randy
So
and
each
not
of
bring
us
it
in our
out into the
district,
public.
we just handle stuff in our own district.
Yeah,
That's something
we
we
felt like it
squashed a
was a
long time
public
ago.
document, what's the big
We
deal?
figured Randy would do what he needed to do and not need to take it to this level. That's the reason.
You should have brought it before the commission.
Okay.
And we could have done it that
Every
way.
time somebody trips the first time, we'll bring it up and then they get run through the ringer. I don't want that. It's when they don't perform after a few months, then maybe we ought to do something.
off your hat, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
my hair's a
I
mess.
was gonna say something, but I thought, well.
Yeah,
you're not
usually
pushing.
I take my hat
Better
off
not
when I
push
come
it, you got
inside.
your
but,
representative
I've set the
there.
bar pretty low, so just
yeah,
go ahead and
yeah,
do what you need
I
to do.
apologize for that. The only other thing I would say is,
It'd be nice if somebody else
Tina-
took their hat off too.
Tina communicated with me. If I messaged her or called her about a status update, she let me know. I have no issue, from my perspective, on how Tina handled the Opens record request. She communicated with me great, and no complaints there. So I wanted to bring that up to you all.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Sorry it got to this point.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Hey.
Good one.
All right. Do you have anything, Brad, before we jump off into, or do we want to do public comments?
I do public comments first if you choose to, we need a brief executive session on attorney-client privilege contract negotiations.
I want to add attorney-client privilege executive session after the public comments. Does anybody have any objection to that?
As long as I can get out of here by 12.
Okay.
Shouldn't be a problem.
All right. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and add that to the agenda. And then we'll go ahead and take public comment.
Not now, not this time, Your Honor.
Thanks,
They're
Tom.
working on it.
Thanks, Tom. If that makes her happy.
I'm tired of listening to everybody having flat tires at the county transfer station. I helped Cody set a set of steps with my forklift a couple weeks ago and was appalled at all the boards with nails sticking out in our county. Truck and trailers driving right over the top of them. The day they backed the truck out of the pit so that we could put that step in, they had a flat tire before they got front steer tire. You don't want nails in your front steer tires. They go flat going down the road. You're automatically in the other lane in the ditch. This is 27 nails picked up on that north ramp and about the first 10 foot of the trailer, and I challenge every one of you to go down there and pick up at least 27 nails. This is something that can, and as soon as Marion Hardware gets a magnet with a handle on it, it's paid for, and they'll deliver it down there for them to use. This is bull crap. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mike. All right, commission comments?
Just one point I want to bring up from the SCED meeting the other day. There's a new, under Sparks, there's a new eviction, called eviction grant protection that's coming out, and it's for landlords. The tenant has to apply for it, but it's up to amount of at least a maximum of $5,000. Applications on that are due November 30th, so it's a quick moving grant. So it'd be nice if we could get that information somehow to the public. If landlords are having some issues, you know, with back rent and that sort of thing, there's a grant out there.
It's a 9-month max too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 9 months,
And
not to exceed 5.
it'd be retroactive to April.
Okay.
So the person that's.
SCED is handling that.
Yeah, but the renter to go apply.
The renter would have to fill out the paperwork, and then once they get the paperwork at the office, SCED office in Hutchinson, who's handling that, then that payment would go direct to the landlord.
Okay, then the renter is not evicted?
Right,
Or
no.
Is not evicted?
No.
And when does the eviction, if you don't start paying after this is done, after we get this up to a certain, then
Well,
when does it happen?
This is a, interim fix.
Interim fix,
That's what I
okay.
call it.
Okay.
I seen that the other day and I called two people that have one rental houses.
Yeah.
And both of them said they don't have anybody that's fallen behind so far.
Well, that's good.
I mean, which I was surprised.
Because some of the other counties that were at the meeting said that they had large issues. And again, like I said, I hope it's not an issue in this county, but I'm sure there's instances out
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I just want landlords to know that, you know, they can go to their tenant and say, hey, we don't want to evict you.
Even if it helps one.
Here's an option.
Yeah. Even if it helps one, it's something that.
And I don't
landlords should
know if that's
about.
something we should get from SCED and put on the website.
We have it.
We have it?
Yep.
Okay,
I sent it to
good.
department heads, we can put it on the website.
But,
I'll forward
you
it
know,
on to the
it's-
newspapers.
Like I said,
also.
it's a short-term deal. The paperwork has to be in by November the 30th, so it's a quick turnaround again, like everything else.
Now,
Just thought I'd bring you out of it.
MidCap built the houses in Hillsborough, the 6 houses over there, or 8, whichever there is. So if any of those renters fell under that they could apply, and then, I don't know where the money goes, how it comes back to us, it comes through the person who's in charge of that. Okay. Cool.
That's all I had.
Yeah, and all I got to is, like I said, the solid waste meeting, didn't happen due to a fail of having a quorum, so we got put off until January. Got all the commission comments? Close that portion of the meeting and then, yes, we'll go on to the next agenda item that was just recently added. I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss item number 2, consultation with our attorney-client privilege.
Contract negotiations is a specific reason.
Specifically, contract negotiations for
10 minutes should be plenty.
Okay, 10 minutes with the board and Brad pursuant to KSA 75-4319B.
Second.
Second by Randy. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 5-0.
Okay, well, then we'll be back at 11:42. Make that 11:43.
Long back.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, out of executive session, no action taken. Is there anything else? If not, I'd make a motion to adjourn. Second by Kent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.